Welcome back. From the thrill of victory to the agony of the unemployment line. In December, head coach John Peacock led his Venice High School football team to the promised land, the Class 7A state football championship. 4 months later, he's out. Fired, not for what he tweeted, but rather for a tweet that he liked by one of his players who posted a racially insensitive picture in reference to a rival coach, Braden Rivers' Kurt Bradley. The reality is, folks, as we are about to learn, liking a tweet can have real legal implications. And joining us for more are Damon Wilson, an assistant coach and the friend of Coach Peacock, ABC 7 reporter Dwayne Lindo. And joining us by Skype from Washington is Susan Nylon. Welcome to you all. And Coach Damon, you know, Coach Peacock is a good friend of yours. Right. And obviously the photograph that he liked was in very poor taste. Mm-hmm. What has the coach told you about what happened when he liked that picture?
We had brief discussions about the picture and what he said, about liking it. But I just want to make a point. Liking that was not a smart thing for him to do. But I've known Coach Peacock since 1993 when we were at East Carolina together. You
were roommates, right?
We were roommates. We were between me, Larry Shannon, all of us, we really hit a bond. I moved down here because of those guys, to be around those guys. Coach Peacock was in my wedding, so nothing about Coach Peacock is a racist. He's never been racist, and so I find it offensive for someone to even call him that. And everyone around Venice and the program knows that.
All right, we're going to get into that more, but Dwayne, you basically reported in your story there's a larger picture going on here that you showed the interview with the athletic director who said that there were other things going on and this was almost like the final straw.
Yeah, I spoke to Venice's principal on the phone. He says that, and I quote, there were a culmination of events that led to this decision. He wouldn't get into the specifics of those events, but the point is he told me that this was kind of part of the decision why they fired Coach Peacock.
Susan, I used to have a news director who used to love us to use the phrase a cautionary tale here. And that's where you come in because you have a legal background, that it's becoming more problematic these days for people when they even like something, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook.
Well, true, but let me remind everybody that liking something on Facebook happens to be protected by the First Amendment. It is, freedom of speech. So if that was the only reason that he was fired, he'd have a lot to stand on. However, that doesn't keep him from scrutiny, and that's pretty much what happened.
And we're seeing people, Susan, get into trouble for what they do in terms of liking things on Facebook. I even remember during the presidential campaign, Ted Cruz got into trouble because he liked some pornography on there, and if you are a public figure, you're going to get that kind of attention.
Yeah, and some of the problem is that people can run their cursor over a Facebook like and it automatically acknowledges it and you don't realize it. It also is a problem because in order for you to follow someone, you have to like them as well. It doesn't mean that you really do like them. It's just how Facebook acknowledges it, and that's a problem. So people have to be really careful about their image and how it's perceived.
Damon, you said that you've known Coach Peacock for many years there, but obviously, given what his statement is tonight, there has been some kind of animosity between these two coaches.
And that's good, and that's cool. It's part of sports. That's, sometimes things like that happen. I just don't know when liking a picture of a lotion bottle becomes racist. That's the point. If you're going to tell me that it was something else, then let it be that, but not liking a picture of a lotion bottle. Okay. That just shouldn't
happen.
Right.
Okay. We are just getting warmed up, and we'll have much more right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us. Welcome back. We're talking about the abrupt firing of Venice High School's football coach just months after winning the state championship. And joining us for more are Damon Wilson, an assistant coach and a friend of Coach Peacock, ABC 7 reporter Dwayne Lindo, and joining us by Skype from Washington is Susan Nylon. And Damon, as Dwayne has been reporting, it seems like there were a lot of other things in play here. Was it within the school, or are we talking about, you know, the district, the county, or what?
I think, well, first of all, I want to clear it up. Assistant coach, I'm not an assistant coach. I'm not with the staff there.
But you coach other football.
Right, teams. Pop Warner, and I volunteer. But I definitely believe that this is more from the top, not at the level, at the high school level.
But why would that be? Because I tell you, in any county you could go to in Florida, they want, you know, a football team to reach the state championship, let alone win it.
I can answer that. And this is the part. If you don't know Coach Peacock, if you don't know who he is, if you don't know he's an introvert, if you don't know he doesn't like to talk, you might get the wrong impression of him. But don't hold that against him when you start talking about and throwing out things like being racist. But that can carry on. That's going to be a wake that will follow him for a long time. Don't do that to him. But if you say, hey, look, you know what? You know, you're not going to talk to us very long. You're not going to hold conversations very long. You're not going to meet with kids for 2-3 hours. Then say that. But don't say it because, you know, don't say you're racist.
Dwayne, I don't think many people, or most people who watch this, understand the politics and the rivalry that goes on at these high schools around the South Coast or anywhere in Florida, no matter what the sport is, whether it's football or baseball or basketball or whatever, and that the relationship between the coaches sometimes gets really heated. Let alone the players.
Oh, right. And for those who don't know, both these schools are in the same district. And these two schools go head-to-head every year and fight for a position in the postseason to try to, you know, make it to state. So we've been seeing this for the past 3 or 4 years. So like you said, this is a heated rivalry. But I have to mention that both these coaches, Coach Bradley and Coach Peacock, they do an immense amount of work for their community and for these kids. They do a great job representing the community. Unfortunately, you know, this is an unfortunate incident, but again, both these squads go head-to-head every year, so it's a huge rivalry.
Susan, obviously there was a lot going on here, but we also live at a time when, you know, whether we're talking about the NFL or we're talking about other things in our culture right now, there is a real racial sensitivity going on with people, whether they say or do or tweet or share the wrong thing.
Yeah, I agree. I go back to your original statement, is that it's a cautionary tale. First of all, I think it's really difficult for teachers in general to share Facebook groups with their students. It's really, really risky. And if I was teaching again, I would not do that because you're left to your activities left up to the interpretation of however it's perceived. And there is a really big question about whether or not Coach Peacock understood the post as a racial post. I mean, there's a large opportunity that he didn't. Even if it was intended that way, sometimes we always don't perceive it to be that way. So it's a real shame, and I happen to agree with what was said earlier. You know, if this gentleman has a really good career, you can't leave it hanging on the fact that he's a racist just because he liked to post. There has to be something more to substantiate it.
Well, now it's going to be out there. It's in the press. In this day and age, once it's on the internet, it stays on the internet, and which I would imagine would make it more difficult to get another coaching job. You know, Damon, what is Coach Peacock thinking right now in terms of his future, in terms of being a football coach in Florida?
I'm going to do my best to hold it together, but I met with him earlier today, and he's hurting. You know, toothpaste is out the tube, and it's not because of he's that type of person. You know, if you were to go back and the Trey Burtons of the world winning Super Bowls, that kid will tell you that Coach Peacock was a father figure. Clay Burton is going to say the same thing. Dree Archer, when Dree Archer was having problems at Kent, no one knows this, Coach Peacock called me and said, hey, I need you to help him out. We stayed on the phone with that kid every day for 3-4 weeks. Just say, stay in school, stay in school. When a kid needed a car in Laurel, Coach Peacock took his truck there and dropped it off and said, here, you get this. And this kid was 22, 23 years old trying to make it, and Coach knew that and said, hey, look, I'm going to give you this car. See, we don't hear those stories. We want to leave all this stuff about being racist and leave it out, and that's frustrating to me.
Dwayne, we should also know we did reach out to the county athletic director to take part in the story tonight, and they could not do that. But on the other hand, in this day and age, especially with your players tweeting and posting on Instagram, wherever, coaches have to monitor what their kids are doing, because kids, as we often know, left to their own devices, say and do stupid things.
Look, I mean, this is something that's normal, where you have coaches, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, coaches follow their players and vice versa. So it's normal. Even college coaches, they'll follow kids that they're recruiting, kids that play for them. So this is normal. This is not like it's an anomaly that the kids were, or Coach Peacock was following a lot of his players. It happens all the time.
And Susan, you said that at this point that coaches really have to be very careful about liking or commenting on social media in response to what one of their players say. But you know what, let's say that there was a posting that was very complimentary, maybe an attachment from a newspaper article about a particular player. I could see how coaches will want to at least like it. I guess the question might be where the line is.
Yeah, I understand that it's quite common that coaches and teachers follow their students and their players. That's not out of the ordinary. But participating, interacting, that's a really hard line. A teacher has a rough time even in the classroom of what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. The fact that you can't be alone in a schoolroom with with a student, and you have to notify somebody else, is an indication of what it's like on a day-to-day basis. Social media is not much different, especially if you have a parent looking, or you have another child who just doesn't quite understand what you're liking. I mean, it's just left up to the interpretation. If you want to take that chance, go right ahead. But here you are. Look where Coach Peacock is.
Damon,
I bet you $5 he wouldn't do it again.
Damon, I think that's fair to say. But what is Coach Peacock thinking right now in terms of what can he do? Are there any legal options that he has?
I think he needs to fight like his life depends on it. His livelihood depends on it. His family depends on it. And how he feeds and takes care of his household. I think a lot of who he is put and wrapped up into giving back to that school, that community, that football team. There's too much good that's come out of that. And right now, my advice and hopefully the advice of others is, no matter what happens, you need to expose anything else out there that has taken place. It needs to be brought to light, and because I guarantee you, if he digs his heels in and he fights, things will come out. I guarantee you that.
And Dwayne, you've been at it for the last 24 hours and trying to talk to as many coaches as possible. It's actually difficult to get people to talk about what happened here because they're afraid of what?
Well, it's a sensitive subject. I mean, that's the thing. Coaches are, a lot of the area coaches, I have to say, are great with the community, great with the kids, great role models. This is something that it's sensitive, like I said, and again, not a lot of coaches want to really dive into this topic because it can become controversial.
Susan, we only have a few seconds left, but what is your takeaway from this?
I still go back to the cautionary tale that we have to be really careful how we interact on Facebook and recognize the fact that the world is watching and the world can be interpreting in a different way that you intended.
Okay. Thank you all. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show, about the drama taking place at the Manatee County School Board back in February. An altercation between Chairman Scott Hopes and board member Dave Miner took place. Hopes claims he was almost hit by a car driven by Miner, then allegedly made a comment to police about having a gun in his own vehicle. A call for the re-election of the chair and the vice chair took place shortly after the altercation. We went to Facebook to hear your thoughts, and Sam says both Manatee and Sarasota need completely new school board members and administrations. Kenneth says, been in Bradenton for 35 years, same joke, different day. Well, If you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Damon Wilson is an assistant coach and a friend of Coach Peacock, ABC7 reporter Dwayne Lindo, and joining us by Skype from Washington, Susan Nylon.